got a lot coming up tonight, but this is the story that has me fired up first tonight. Tomorrow, the House will vote on the largest spending cut in the history of the country. Think about that. Spending cuts. Everybody loves cuts, right? Because we're going to be fiscally responsible and we're just going to cut our way into profit. It's the largest, not under a Democratic president, it's the largest cut. And of course, this is the devil in the detail time for the American people, because they had to do this to avert a government shutdown last Friday. Well, the details are out this morning. Let's start with $38 billion in cuts. What does that include? Well, should we say happy birthday to the Koch brothers tonight? What do you think? The Environmental Protection Agency is going to give up 16% of its budget, $1.6 billion. I had to put this on card tonight because there's just so much stuff here. Renewable energy, $438 million. Are you kidding me? Well, that's all part of Drill Baby Drill. That's what that is. Oh, let's see now. Let's hit the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. The Enviros, they love it. You know, they love the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, so the righties, they'd love to hit them. They're going to serve up $150 million, okay? You boys out there in rural America who are Tea Partiers, you think that your water's all clean? Guess what? You got to serve up $80 million in rural water development. You know, clean water, it's kind of important. That's on there. Let's not forget environmental quality incentives for businesses. Businesses that decide to do things that are good for the environment, those incentives are out there, going to get cut $80 million. Let's just keep going down the list. Agriculture is going to get hit. Emissions control monitoring. You know, those government agencies to make sure that there aren't any cheaters out there. That's going to take millions of dollars right out of the budget. See, there's just so much there. Well, wait a minute. There's a lot more. FEMA first responders. That program is going to cut $786 million. The FEMA first responders. Now, I just thought I'd pull out some hometown video tonight. This, of course, is Fargo, North Dakota. They're fighting the flood for the umpteenth time, another record flood and whatnot. And FEMA always shows up. But you know what? They're going to get cut. The medical assistance, the search and rescue. Every governor that goes through a disaster always calls for FEMA assistance, but I guess they're going to get a busy signal now, or somebody's just going to take it off the hook because nobody's going to be there to answer it. They're going to cut FEMA big time. You can count on that. Well, that's only $786 million. Hell, that's chump change, isn't it, to the Republicans? Let's talk about the COPS program. You know, that's going to get cut, too. $296 million in assistance to state and local law enforcement. That's going to get cut $415 million. Now, what's this? The cops are going to be gone? Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen. There's going to be less equipment. There's not going to be as many manpower hours. There's going to be less money out there for communities to coordinate in dealing with big crimes and dealing with all kinds of, missing persons. Does that count? Are the Republicans, do they care about that? Yes, this is happening under a Democratic president. This is sad. The COPS program goes back to the mid-'90s when the Clinton administration put 100,000 new cops on the beat. And, of course, city councils could pay some of that, and it was proportioned through the years. That money's going to be cut big time. That's only $415 million. What's that mean? That means if you're in a small town and you count on federal money to get a couple of extra officers, they're not going to be there. So your local taxes have a chance of going up on this. Here's another one. Federal highway investment. This is going to be cut $650 million. Now, what is this? Just what is this? Well, let's see. We're showing pictures of a bridge here. Bridges are in trouble in America. We even had one fall down in Minnesota that killed 13 people and injured 45. That was back in August of 2007. And at the time, this country did a survey on bridges in America. We found out that 12% of the bridges in this country were structurally deficient. And by the way, a report came out just a couple of weeks ago that said the same thing. And it also said that 69,000 bridges in this country need major repairs. And it also said in that report that bridges in this country on an average are 42 years old. And they're structurally supposed to have a lifespan of 50 years. But I guess we'll wait. We'll wait. You know, your highway funds are kind of big. It always helps in economic development. And it's always good to know that you could be crossing a bridge in America that's going to be safe. Oh, we got more cuts. Community health centers, they're going to lose $600 million. I know about these folks. I went to these health care clinics, but that was a different program. This is in your community. $600 million. Now, you know who these folks are? They're the elderly, they're the poor, they're the homeless, they're the uninsured, they are the underinsured. Some people have insurance, but if they have a big medical issue and they can't afford that, they'll go to programs such as this. We have 50 million people in this country who do not have health insurance. And you may ask the question, where do they go? They go right here. But you see, the Republicans have forced a Democratic president and a Democratic Senate to say, all right, this is the deal we'll do so you don't shut down the government. This is happening on a liberal watch. I mean, if President Obama tomorrow in his speech talks about Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, he will do what other Republican presidents never did. And that's put the big three on the table. We'll talk about that in the second block of tonight's program. But getting back to all of these cuts that Boehner and the Republicans want, you know what they want to do with that money? They want to give it to rich people. They want to cut the personal income tax rate from 35 down to 25%. And over a decade, that would mean that the wealthiest Americans would have a 14% cut in their obligation. And you want to know why the hell we have money problems in this country? It's the have and the have-nots. It's the two Americas. It's a distorted priority list. And the Democrats are going to go along with this? President Obama, tomorrow, my friend, you got a defining moment in your presidency. I hear it on the radio every day. And we're not whacked out lefties. We're Americans. These people that were going through these cuts that we just showed you, they're Americans. They voted too. Oh, don't they get a stake in the game at all? But you see, when you deal with the elderly, when you deal with the poor, when you deal with students, when you deal with the disabled, you are dealing with people that have absolutely no political power in Washington whatsoever. They can't line the pockets of anybody. Hell, they're trying to line their own pockets. So what do you say we just cut them and give the Republicans what they want, and that's more tax cuts to the top 2%? Because you know why? Bush told us they're going to be the job creators out there. It's the job creators. We got to help them out. They have this theory, which has failed, that if we give more money to the rich people, they're going to go create jobs. Think about that. The Republicans actually know what people are going to do with their money, but they sure as hell don't want to help out the 99ers, and they sure as hell don't want to help out the downtrodden or people who have lost their jobs. But they know what people are going to do with their money because they're going to give it to the top 2%, and they're going to go out and create those jobs. Yeah? Well, guess what? I showed you the graph last night, didn't you? Didn't I? About where all those tax cuts went and how many jobs were created. I mean, if the Republicans were correct in the last 8 years before Barack Obama came in, we should have been on a roll on job creation. We shouldn't have had any of these problems on Wall Street. We should have been worried about AIG, but everything just kind of got out of hand, you know. Get your cell phones out. I want to know what you think about our question tonight, and it is, should the Democrats vote for this damn budget deal? Text A for yes, text B for no to 622-639, or go to our new blog at ed.msnbc.com. No, they shouldn't vote for it. How can they call themselves Democrats and vote for something like this? This is Cave City, USA. I'll bring you the details later on in the show. Joining me now is Senator Bernie Sanders, independent from Vermont. Senator, good to have you with us tonight. You have announced that you are not going to vote for this deal. I commend you for that big time, Senator. But the big question of the hour is, are you going to filibuster it? What about that, Bernie?
Well, I think I'm going to save my ammunition for the fight that's going to take place right after this budget is passed. And that is going to be the Ryan budget, which is beyond comprehension. As you indicated, it would lower taxes for the very richest people in this country from 35 to 25%, lower corporate taxes the same way, voucherize Medicare, so that if you are a senior citizen, you will get $8,000 for an insurance company plan. Now, if you are 75, you got cancer, you tell me what an $8,000 plan is going to cover for you. Not very much. And all of the studies indicate huge amounts of money are going to come out of seniors' pockets for health care, which many seniors don't have. So to answer your question, Ed, what we have seen in December is huge tax breaks for the wealthiest people. What we have seen, as you very appropriately enunciated, major cutbacks in programs for our infrastructure and for working people. Now what we are going on to is even worse, and the Republicans plan on blackmailing this country and saying we are not going to vote to raise the debt ceiling unless you make savage cuts on working people and give tax breaks to the rich.
Well, the bottom line here, Senator, is that the Tea Party has won the first round.
Yes.
The Tea
and the
Party,
second round.
And well, if they win the third round, it's over, in my opinion. But so you're not going to filibuster, but you're not going to vote in favor of this, obviously. So
no, I certainly am not going to vote against it. I'm going to fight against it. But I think they have the votes to pass it. I think the fight right now, Ed, and you're doing a great job, is to rally the American people and say we're not going to give more tax breaks to billionaires and devastate programs that we have fought for decades for middle income and working families.
You know, the American people, do we get to say anything about this? Look at this number that came out today. This is a USA Today Gallup poll. This is before the devil in the details was released. The budget deal, 62% of Americans approve it, 25% disapprove of this budget deal. This is before they knew what the heck was being cut. And then when it comes to raising taxes on the wealthiest Americans at $250,000 and above, 59% of the American people support that. I think when the American people find out exactly what's in this, they're not going to like it at all. But what do you make of that number? We are letting the top 2%, and I'm one of them, off scot-free. In fact, they want to give me more of a break. How in the hell are we going to balance the books on a deal like that?
Ed, it is morally obscene to cut programs for the most vulnerable people in this country and give tax breaks to millionaires and billionaires, and it is bad economics as well. Every poll that I have seen suggests that the American people want shared sacrifice. You can't just cut education and Pell Grants and infrastructure and community health centers and say to the wealthiest people in this country, you know what your sacrifice is? We're going to give you huge tax breaks, despite the fact that the rich are already getting richer while the middle class is collapsing. Well, the American people don't want that.
Senator, but the Republicans are saying that if we give the rich this money, they're going to go out and create jobs.
Well, Ed, we saw that movie over an 8-year period during the Bush administration. And you know what the result is? We lost 500,000 private sector jobs. Worst job performance record in modern America.
Senator, good to have you with us tonight. I appreciate you sticking up for the working folk of America. There is no doubt about it that people like you have the facts on your side. And it's only going to take some real brave Americans who are elected by some in this country to stand up and sound the alarm on exactly what is happening in this country. I mean, our country is just infrastructurally, it's just unraveling, and it's all for the rich people. What's wrong with this country? Why are we doing this? Senator from Vermont, Bernie Sanders, with us tonight here on The Ed Show. Remember to answer tonight's text question there at the bottom of the screen. I want to know what you think. The cuts we just talked about could be chicken feed compared to next year. And the next few years after that, if the Republicans have their way. A preview of the president's big address, and later, as Scott Walker marks his 100th day in office, one of his top donors pleads guilty to a money laundering scheme, a scheme that helped Walker go to the governor's mansion in Wisconsin. It's all coming up. Stay with us.